Welcome back to Blockchain Pill. We're back with a special episode. We're live streaming directly from the DeFi studio. This is literally where Dominic recorded the AI demos and everything that he put up. We have a special guest. This is Enzo, one of the early contributors to the Water Neuron. It's a pleasure to finally have you on the show. How's it going?
Alex, it's a pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me. I can't wait to talk about ICP and DeFi specifically.
Water Neuron has been running for the past 6 months, 9 months. How long has it been?
Water Neuron has been live since late July.
Okay.
The protocol launched after the SNS for it to be decentralized from day one. It now has 1.3 million ICP staked on the protocol. That represents 2/3 of all the ICP in DeFi today. I staked with Water Neuron. And the goal of it was to enable liquid staking, which is one of the DeFi primitives that's present on every chain, but was a bit lacking on ICP. And so what we really wanted to do was kickstart this liquid staking revolution that enables a more flow of assets within the entire DeFi ecosystem. So now we're working on the second part, which is enabling more liquidity in every protocols on DeFi.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really kickstarted it with over 1.3 million ICP staked with an API that is super close to the NNS. But before we go to the numbers here, I want us to talk a little bit about you and what you did before starting Water Neuron.
Yeah, sure. Before doing Water Neuron, I was a software engineer at the DeFi Foundation here in Zurich. So was Leo, another co-contributors. And that's where we met and decided to leave the foundation to go build on a network because we felt that the tech's capabilities are crazy good, but it's very hard to build on a network. And we wanted to bring some of the knowledge and trade craft that we had learned here and bring into everyone so that everyone could benefit from it. And so that's how now we try to lead by example with the way we structure our repositories, the way we have build reproducibility on every SNS proposal, and so on.
For the people that are new to DeFi and have not heard the term before, what is liquid staking?
I think we have to take like a step back here. ICP works very differently in terms of staking. On every other chain, people will run individual nodes and you would do a proof of stake and your ICP or your ETH will get staked on those nodes and then you would validate transactions and that would earn you some rewards in ETH. On ICP works very differently. Nodes are completely separate from that. And so on ICP, the API that you get is from voting because the network itself is a DAO and the NNS is all powerful on ICP. For all of this governance to work, the foundation and the team at Zurich decided we need to have longer staking time. And we need to really incentivize people to lock up their ICP, which you bought for a large amount of money. I need to incentivize you to lock it up and to participate in governance, even if you might not want to, but because it's very important to secure the network as a whole. And so the foundation decided, 6 months is the minimum, 8 years the maximum, and it goes from roughly 7% to 14 or 15%. Now, the issue with this is all of the ICPs that were locked in the NNS in the last 2-3 years are locked, which is great for security, but it's less great for DeFi because on other chains, what would happen is all of this ICP locked would flow back into DeFi. And so today that represents roughly $3 billion. And so that's why when you look at the TVL of all the major L1, ICP ranks so low because the main source of liquidity is usually this stream of people locking it up to secure the network. And then now they have a locked asset. They use it on the network that they're helping to secure. But on ICP, because of our different design, that was really hard to coin a way to do it in a secure way, in a decentralized way from the beginning. And that's why it took 2-3 years and people from the foundation to build it, because actually building the protocol was tough and thinking about how to build it in a decentralized manner without it becoming a problem. Because when you look at other chains, when you look at Ethereum or Solana, there's a small group of people who are responsible for validating transactions. And that is a problem from the centralization aspect, right? And so we thought about it as like, what if we're not a DAO and we just let people stake with us, and we give them another token? Then it means that I personally have the voting power, which is not good for the DAO of ICP as a whole. But the way it's built now is that Water Neuron is a sub-DAO of the NNS, where people are deciding every day on the proposal, which direction should we take, which should we not, and then they decide as a whole to vote with all the ICP that's on the network. And so we had to replicate some of the security best practices that the NNS have into the Water Neuron DAO. So that's why Water Neuron neurons are non-transferable, just like ICP neurons, because we don't want voting power to be fully liquid, because that would be in itself a threat to the network, at least in the early stage that we are now. As we have more capital, more whales, more contributors, maybe we can enable this feature. But I think for now, we really want to stay aligned with the vision of the NNS.
Understood. So right now, there are billions of dollars locked inside the NNS,
Mhm.
which could have been used as liquidity in the DeFi ecosystem of ICP. But because of the way it is designed, it is locked there, and you guys are tackling this problem. How do you guys manage to offer such a good APY for the people that stake their ICP through you compared to those in the NNS? So right now, for 6 months of staking, you offer almost the same APY as 8 years inside the
Exactly.
NNS.
So that's a little trick that we came up with. When the first SNS was launched, Water Neuron, we promised that all the ICP deposited would be used for incentive mechanism and not a single cent will go off chain. And right now, 6 months later, this was been happening. Of the 420K ICP raised, 400K has been deposited into the HA neuron, and the rest is waiting there because we need to do weekly proposal because of the design of the SNS. The way we enable a better APY is all of those ICP are staked into an HA neuron and are locked there forever. 90% of those guys' yield goes to the stakers who stake into the 6 months neuron, so the nICP neuron. So it means that in the nICP neurons, you earn the boosted yield from all the ICP that was staked during the SNS. And that enables us to have an API comparable to the NNS 8 years, 6 years, 7 years. As the protocol is going to gather more and more TVL, this boost is going to shrink. And then we're going to go a bit below the NNS. But that only happens once we have a critical mass of ICP, which is roughly 5 to 6 to 7% of all the ICP on the network. Right now, we're at 0.25%, so we're a long way off,
Of course.
but we're building up the TVL.
So let's have a look at the stats right now. You guys have a TVL of over 1.3 million ICP locked. I did the math before. It's like $17 million locked inside Water Neuron with an APY of over 13%. And currently there are 800 holders, which is incredible stats for just 6 months that Water Neuron was active. How are you guys planning to add new players to ICP DeFi? How are you helping the ICP DeFi ecosystem grow?
So there's several ways where we try to help. We want to become and try to become the place where you want to look for yield. Because right now, for years, like we said, people had no real option other than the NNS, and so they locked by default. And then they ended up following Definity for all the proposals, but all they wanted to was yield. Because the NNS was the only place for yield, they had to go to the NNS. We want to become the alternative, and as more people discover ICP, they stick with Water Neuron. And as more people dissolve their neurons, they stick with Water Neuron. And now we try to work with all those large key holders of the network. So we try to work with custodians like Prime Vault. We try to work with whales. We try to work with node providers. We try to work with like employees, ex-employees, VCs, all of those people that have ICP today that we want to tell them, listen, like, don't lock it up. Put it inside an nICP, let it gather yield, and deposit your nICP in the liquidity pool somewhere, whether that's ICP swap, Kong swap, ICDEX. And by enabling this, it means that all of those people that have the nICP can be in a liquidity pool, earn the APY of the liquidity pool, but on top of it, earn the APY of your ICP that is staked without having to vote every day. So you can, it's like a fire and forget mechanism. You can stake, put it in the liquidity pool, and then forget about it. But you earn double the yield.
Can this nICP be used inside the DeFi ecosystem of ICP right now, or is it?
Yeah, it can be used already. So you can deposit it on liquidity pool, like I just mentioned, but you can also borrow against it with Lenfinity. So you can deposit some nICP and borrow some CKUSDC, CKUSDT. In the future, Definance, I think, wants to enable the same. You can, so yeah, liquidity pool is a great mechanism. And then as time is going to go on, we might ourselves create other mechanisms that are going to allow you to buy nICP at a cheap price and then stake it for some extra APY. So all of those clever DeFi strategy that right now the ICP ecosystem is not very used to. And I think that comes from the way the network has been built and the who is on chain. It's like everyone who is on ICP is not a pure Web3 player. They came here for some of this decentralization aspect without being too familiar with more of the crypto native aspect, which is DeFi. And so it is part of our job to educate the end users of what they can do with their ICP and how they can put it to work.
Is there a way that you can leverage some of the already locked ICP in the NNS, or do we have to wait for it to expire and then people rotate it into Water Neuron?
So there could be a way. We found a way to build a product where we could leverage that. However, it is tough to build. And there is a lot of like hidden foot guns around it. That there's a lot of steps which are very tough. So for you to build such a product, let's imagine it for a second. You would need, because ICP neurons are non-transferable, you would need to sell your II or transfer your II to Water Neuron. The issue is because your II is this all-encompassing identity on the internet computer. It means that if you use this II for open chats, to log in on ICP Swap, you lose all of those access. So even though it's technically possible, right now it's not practical.
Maybe in the future you'll be able to only transfer your ICP neurons, but that comes with the problem of
Governing.
and putting in danger the security of the Internet Computer Protocol. You guys recently launched the second phase of the project called the Papaya SNS. What is the purpose of Papaya SNS?
So when we first started, we told the community that there would be 3 SNSs or like 3 sales. And the first one was done in June, July, and now 6 months later, the second one was kickstarted. The goal of this is to increase the decentralization of the protocol. After analysis, we realized that 80% of the tokens are held by early contributors, whales. And we realized that if we want to be a reflection of the network and give the people at ICP more of a voice at the level of the NNS, where there's a lot of people with a lot of voting power, we have to decentralize the chain token even more. And so that's why the second cell was launched. It was launched on the Water Neuron website instead of the NNS, because the NNS currently does not allow for a second SNS to happen. And it was launched as the strange premises, which we find quite interesting. No minimum, no maximum. Meaning that the market will decide what is the fair valuation of WTN. And we do not want to value that, because we think that all around, it should be the people that decide how much something is worth to them. And I shouldn't say, oh, we set it at this price.
Of course, but there is still the indicator of the Water Neuron price at which it is trading right now, so that is also a reflection. But looking on the Water Neuron Papaya SNS page, currently you would get almost 10 times as much Water Neuron compared to the previous SNS, and there is 1 day and 8 hours left. Maybe it's going to be a lot less when this video comes out. So for the people that are interested to invest in Water Neuron, there is the Papaya SNS going on right now. What can they expect in 2025 from Water Neuron? What are your plans? How are you gonna grow Water Neuron?
Our next plan is to enable nICP to flow more fully into the ecosystem. We've been able to capture a lot of the ICP in DeFi. We like 2/3 of them are in Water Neuron, so we do have an early lead right now. We need to make sure that all the nICP that are in the protocol are put to good use, and right now that's not the case. Right now, only 8K of the nICP.
Of the 1,103.3 million, okay.
Yeah, so only 8K of it is in DeFi, or maybe a bit more, like 20, 30. We ran some numbers last week. And we want to make it easier for people to put it into liquidity pools. However, liquidity pools are a bit scary to a lot of the users who stake with us. We've realized this, and we want to build some new features that would allow you to be in liquidity pool without having to fully understand how it works, and we want to facilitate these transactions for you. So it would mean that right now, one of the issues is like if you go into a liquidity pool on ICP Swap, you need to rebalance your position because the protocol exchange rate changes daily. And that means a lot of care around your position, which most people do not have, to be honest. We want to build something which enables you to deposit your ICP, and we do the rest. But we enable more liquidity throughout the DeFi ecosystem. So we managed to seize a large portion. Now you want to make sure that the portion we seized is used correctly.
But what has changed? Because I remember in 2021 when I was playing with DeFi, you would just provide half of, I was doing it on a Binance Smart Chain. So you would just provide BNB and a token, and that was it. Now, when I try to provide liquidity on ICP on one of the swaps, you have to add a range and stuff like that. So it's a lot more complicated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the point. It's a lot more complicated, but for a token like nICP, you want to sell it at a specific price compared to the exchange rate of the protocol, which you need to look at the exchange rate of the protocol. You need to change like you said, the window in your liquidity pool. And all of this is a pain.
Like it's a lot more complicated.
It's a lot more complicated. Yeah. So our goal is like you come in, the end results would be the same.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have to do it. The protocol will do it for you.
That would be good.
And I think would enable us to capture more and more of the ICP and put all of those ICP to better use. So right now we need there's nearly $50 million, right? We need to have a pool where the liquidity depth is at least $5 to $10 million, because then you can allow whales and institutions to come and swap.
Yeah.
And those are the big players that you need to be able to let in to your environment and play.
And to receive the yield from nICP, do you have to do anything special with it, or you just hold it in your wallet?
Just hold it. The price of nICP on the protocol changes. And so I mean, by just holding the assets, it becomes more valuable. You don't receive daily ICP, just the asset becomes more valuable in itself.
Okay, cool. Any last words that you want to say to the blockchain pill and the Water Neuron community?
Last words is for the ICP community is that the tech is great. Try to encourage and empower all the builders on the chain, because I do think that we have something unique here. And the day the world will recognize this fact is the day that we will have mass adoption of ICP.
Perfect. Enzo, thank you very much.
Alex, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Perfect. Bye-bye. Cool.
So guys,